Hello viewers, I'm SB,
And I'm Amabel.
and welcome back to Amabel Goes to 4X School, Chapter 2, Episode 2, where we're playing some Endless Legend. Look at all this Endless Legend. Hold on, the grid's not on. There we go. Now that feels better. I experience great distress when the grid lines are not visible. Alright, so we're building out our city. We're building out our city right now. The Empire's sitting pretty happy, but I'm getting a little nervous. The red player settled directly into us, which is a sign of aggression in my opinion.
It's very rude.
Blue is over here. It doesn't harm us too badly because we intended to settle kind of this way anyway, but it does to me communicate aggressive intent at the very least. And while I do not think that the base AI is necessarily a fantastic player of the game, this is very much a Civ situation where, because we're playing on the highest difficulty, they started with a lot of stuff, and they probably have a much more impressive army than we do right now at this moment. So, that is a thing that we might need to correct. But for the moment, where are we at here? We've already moved all of our units. I think it's maybe we're approaching time to merge our tiny little military back together for defensive purposes. But I do want to like try to explore out here a little bit more first. So I would like to at the very least see to the coast in this region. Okay, that was fast. And then I am going to assign our hero over here. We're going to get moving. They have an army with a hero at the head of it. They are pursuing us. I moved away pretty quickly there. I could maybe have stayed and had a look at their units. But I wanted to make sure we got away, basically. I'll poke my head in here. Okay, so we know exactly where their city is in this region because that is what exploitation looks like, which means that tile is adjacent to a district.
Okay.
Okay, and we will plan to get back across the border in this way, so we'll get maximum vision into their territory, but end our move in safe territory at the beginning of the turn. And I think it is worth asking ourselves, at what point are we willing to throw some dust here? To maybe start training a military. We do still need to get a settler down, and winter could come any moment. Also, have we talked to the minor faction in our home territory yet?
I'm not sure if we have.
Okay, well that'll be a thing to focus on soon. It would be 125 dust. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and buy out the borough streets. Let's make some military units, but before we do that, let's talk about how military units work in this game. So, You can see up here, we have our unit designs. At the beginning of the game, everybody starts with the settler and the one sort of basic, whatever their lowest tier military unit is. For us, it is this fragile but reasonably effective ranger. Notice very high attack and with a skill that buffs attack, but because our base damage is quite low, all attack can do for us is guarantee that we're hitting at, maybe as high as damage plus 50%. So if we really want to make use of it, we need to juice up that damage number.
Okay.
In addition to that, every faction has 2 further military units, one of them available in the Age 1 research area. In our case, it's this shaman who's like sort of beefy, not very good at fighting, has this bark skin buff that it can cast to make other units tougher. And then another unit in the Era 2 research area. For us, this is our heavy infantry 10A walker unit, who is sort of like the opposite of the archers in that he has lower attack but very impressive base damage and nice high defenses and health. And also, you can see there that sweep strike back skill. We haven't had to face this yet, but if a melee unit gets attacked in combat before it has spent its turn, it will immediately spend, if it gets attacked in melee combat, before it has
Okay.
spent its turn, it will immediately spend its turn to counterattack, which means that like you can control enemy melee units by having higher initiative units hit them first and sort of lock them in combat. In that situation where you are spending your turn to strike back, the sweep strike back capacity replaces your normal hit back with a hit back that hits people in an arc.
Okay.
So Tene Walkers are very good at like clearing an enemy line in counter combat. You can see they only have 18 initiative, so they tend not to strike first.
Okay, that's a smart bit of design.
Yeah, I think the combat system of this game is maybe the best thing about it, and it's full of things that I like. But the combat system is really, really clever. And I am a huge fan. I think we are... Oh, so what I was doing here. The way you upgrade your units is, first of all, units have levels, and they will gain XP over time, and when they gain XP, they will gain stats. And that's all well and good. When you produce a unit, you produce it at a level equal to your current age. So we make level 1 units right now. When we get up into level 2, into era 2, we'll make level 2 units. But also, you can edit your unit designs and attach different equipment to them. There is sort of like basic iron equipment. Every time we enter a new research era, we'll get higher level versions of this stuff. But there's also research we can perform to get far better equipment that is made out of the strategic resources. And when I say far better, I mean like 500% better. The difference is really large. But for right now, we could potentially like... Right now we're doing this like crossbow and shield thing with these units, which has them doing... It's okay output, but even with the shield, their defense is so low that if they get caught, they're basically just dead. Like, I am inclined to say, let's swap those out for longbows. The crossbow has +9 attack, +1 initiative. The longbow has +12 attack, +5 damage. And you can see different weapons have different capacities, different things that they're good at. Crossbows get a little bit of bonus power against enemies who are adjacent to you, which again feels like a defensive play on a unit that you're trying to keep out of combat as much as possible. While we could just have this and do a ton of bonus damage to flying units. We have boot and chest and helmet slots. Right now we're essentially unarmored, and I kind of think I want to keep us that way. You can see each item that we equip is adding production cost to the unit. Like this helmet would add an extra 6 industry. And since, again, we really don't want these units getting caught in close-up combat, I think just keeping costs down and producing more of them is the best way to take advantage of their particular strengths. And then we have an accessory slot here where we could equip improved vision and sharp sense. Sharp sense gives you a little bit of bonus against enemy range attacks. Or improved movement stuff to give us more... notice this says +1 battle movement, so that's +1 movement per turn in combat, and +1 movement. That's out of battle strategic map movement.
Okay.
These things are quite expensive, though, so for right now, all that I'm going to do is just make the switch to longbows. Save that design, and we're going to put one of these in the queue. We don't need the sewer system finished until our gold booster runs out, which is in 4 turns. So yeah, we can just focus on this. I just think we maybe want to get some military units out.
Yeah.
If we were to focus everybody on industry for a sec, we could actually pump out military units quite quickly. I might want to do that. Like just get to a full army.
Yeah.
Our hero can currently command 4 units.
So I have a nomenclatural question. Because
before that, I just want to point out real quick, we can do the same thing for our hero. Our hero has access to the same equipment, but heroes will often have access to other weapon types, and there are some items you'll pick up that can only be equipped on heroes. That often will affect the whole army in some way or something like that.
Okay.
Okay. Anyway, go ahead.
So, both Civ and this game, because I'm going to be making these comparisons as part of the whole
Yeah, that's
class
absolutely part
structure.
of what we're doing, yeah.
There is a differentiation between like basic resources like food production, etc., and strategic resources. Does that hold throughout the genre broadly, or
Yeah, that's pretty common. Resources that are like for civilizational stuff versus resources that are intended to be turned into weapons.
okay?
You know, iron does a different thing for you than, you know, wine or, you know, or clay or whatever does. That's pretty common. You're going to see a lot of that. All right, not a lot to do here except continue moving. So as our units finish, when a city builds a unit, the unit just goes into the city's garrison, because each city has in it a little built-in army. You get some militia units for free, which are fine. They're fine combat units. Generally, they have cavalry slayer, which makes cities a little bit better at defending themselves against just open cavalry attacks. We have not, in fact, spoken to these dudes. Well, let us do so. To pacify the Kazanji and Tenelm, I must help my neighbors against the menace of these monsters. The tribe leader needs your help. A pack of hostile monsters has been raiding and threatening their villages, and they lack the military power to stop them. If you wipe out that threat, the tribe will be more than happy. So, they've marked these ruins as the place where those monsters live. We run over there and search the ruins. It'll spawn a monster army, and we'll have to deal with that. Okay. Oh, right, I forgot. We should... Here, I'm going to rush out our sewer system. I forgot, when we built the new district, it dropped our contentedness, because the district... Having more districts... Each new district lowers the city's approval by 10. And then if you manage to level the district up, it raises it by 15, so you end up with a net positive. But basically, like, low development areas, people want their home area to be developed. So this right here is the sharing, that special thing of our faction. We can tell exactly where that army is because we are relying on the network of the plants and beasts of the world telling us what's up.
Okay.
We can't see what they're doing, but we can see where they are doing it. I'm hoping they will move away from this thing here. Yeah, okay. I think we can probably go ahead and spawn those monsters. I'm going to get our new unit out here. We're not going to merge up because if this unit joins the military right now, obviously we'll be out of movement. I want to do this and get back inside my borders as fast as possible.
Mm-hmm.
But I bet we can handle this with just these units. So, here's where you get to see something.
Okay.
I'm going to spawn this monster army. They're going to attack us. And I don't really get to display it because they did battle so quickly. But you know how the battlefield, like, it draws an area around where the combatants are and we fight in that little area? Any other armies that are also in that area belonging to either of the two factions get to show up to the battle as reinforcements. So you can see our new ranger will show up on the first turn as a reinforcement unit. So we're up against a couple of vine snakes here. Pretty scary, pretty high damage, very poor defenses, but they have a lot of health.
All right.
So each faction gets a couple of spaces with these little flags marked on them. Those are your reinforcement arrival points. Reinforcement units will show up from those locations. You only have 2 movement, right? Yeah, we can make this work. Yeah, I'm gonna offer up our hero here as a way of stopping these guys from coming in. Unfortunately, we don't know which of the reinforcement points the thing's going to come in, but we'll just have to do it. That's a shame. I really wish it had been the other one. Okay.
No, that's clever. I like that a lot, actually, and that's something that reflects my understanding of like historical battles, where you expect someone to come in on this side, they come in on that side instead, they get lost, take the wrong road.
Because there are more
Already.
units in this battle, I also want to point out this, I think, is a good time to introduce the idea of morale.
Okay.
You can see units will get bonus morale from having other units adjacent to them. Each point of morale is worth 15% attack and defense.
Okay.
Any unit that has the ranged trait will get -1 morale for every enemy unit that's adjacent to it. And negative morale is it's always, you know, an adjustment of 15%, both attack and defense.
Okay.
And then there are lots of other effects, obviously, that can change morale values.
No, I've done very similar kind of morale systems in some of my Hex Encounter war games, so like this is very familiar to me and very. Already, there is more historical accuracy in this game than there was in Civ. As far as making a compelling systemic expression of the way battles work in most circumstances.
All right, so you can see our hero's taking it. He's at -2 morale right now, and that's a real shame, down to 35 defense. So these enemies, with their 56 attack, are absolutely going to wail on him. But we have the ranged advantage. It's going to be very difficult for them to get anything meaningful done in this battle. And as the enemies go down, obviously, the math is changing rapidly in our favor. Just doing our best to continue attacking from the forest for all the bonus attack. There we go. You see, even small differences in the amount of raw damage dealt add up when you're in a situation where you're like, you're getting plus 50% attack because you're standing in the trees or whatever. You can see here we have this retrofit button, which will allow me to upgrade. So what we did was we took this unit design and we edited it, right, to create Dakari Ranger 2. So units that are in the line can be retrofitted to the new design by paying basically like an amount of dust that is based on the cost difference between their equipment and the new equipment. So I'm just going to go ahead and update this. So they're both longbow troops now. And that got us 80 dust for finding the monsters, and then pacification of the tribe for completing the quest. So that does a couple of things immediately. First of all, we now have a point of population. Those people are the Kazanji in our region are allowed in our cities. They're here, they're working, they're giving us extra resources, and we have the ability to try to assimilate them. If we assimilate them, we'll be able to build their military unit, which is actually an extremely rad unit, although it is pretty costly. But it is a flying chain lightning demon, fireproof. It's a scary dude.
Yeah.
And we will also get an assimilation effect. The assimilation effect for each minor faction is different. These guys will give us bonus influence income, which is valuable. But I'm not going to... Well, first of all, we can't afford to do it right now. But secondly, we're going to need our influence for something in just a second here. A game system that I have been intentionally not warning you about, because there's a lot going on. All right, our booster has run out. We got a new ranger. Let's run down here and merge up. How much movement do we have left in this army? 1 point. I do want to get vision of them because I'd like to get a look at their stats, how advanced those units actually are.
Yeah.
We're definitely going to want to build a public library after we finish this ranger. Do I want to just buy the ranger and start pushing on new buildings immediately? I think I'm not going to. I do want to get this stuff done in a real hurry. So we are 4 technologies away from having access to the next era. Obviously, once we're in the next era, we'd like to be researching stuff from the next era. So this is like a time when we really want to take a second and figure out, like, what do we feel like we could afford to not get? You can still research Era 1 stuff once you're in Era 2, but you'd really like to be getting these more powerful things.
Yeah.
Well, there are reasons. So we don't have the basic industry building yet. I think we probably ought to remedy that. And then probably in the near future, maybe immediately afterward, we're going to start talking about the marketplace. But the mill foundry, it's a thing I go for really early on most factions. We had enough industry going here that I didn't feel it was like super necessary. But we're going to want it. All right, I'm going to let them spend all their movement and then move in and take a peek at their army when it's too late for them to... Oh, they just burned down that village. All right, what are we looking at here? Oh, hey, they still have movement left. Let me step inside my borders. So we got some stone sentinels here. Look at this, 27 attack, pretty sad attack, right? But 42 damage, pretty good base damage, 74 defense, and 132 life. These guys are tough as hell. We are going to have a legitimately difficult time killing them. I'm not really sure what my plan is. If they declare war on us, it could just get really ugly. That might be what the plan is. Just deal with the fact that it's really ugly. But I also just showed them that we have a real military. We have some numbers at the very least. I'm hoping that will chill out any feelings they had about murdering us. Let's merge up here. Keep in mind, having now completed this guy's command is also good for his XP. You can see we're getting, at the bottom of the tooltip there, 5 passive XP per turn from his full command, so that's nice. How many... We don't have a lot of minor faction quests. We should go around and chat with the minor factions, see if they're willing to... see if they're going to ask us to do anything that's easy to pull off and rewarding. Give the game a chance to give us some free value. And winter's got to be coming pretty soon. I'm wondering if it is time to just go ahead and commit on the settler. We are going to need to expand. We are going to need a larger economic base. And this is a pretty slow expansion, honestly. However... Yeah. There are some benefits to not really expanding before turn 20, which you are about to see. Oh, do you see that very faintly in the distance there? Sparkles.
Oh.
Okay, we did not find anything. I believe it's base 20% of the time. Ruins are just empty. But that's okay. It gave us enough XP to level up. And... I think this hero is probably going to remain a combat hero. So we're just going to push up his class tree. +1 vision for the army seems pretty handy. Oh, okay. So you might notice that these ruins over here are being overgrown. A fungal bloom is upon them. This tells us which faction the blue player is.
Yeah.
One of the factions in this game is a big fungal colony.
That's rad. I like that.
So that's potentially a good thing. It means that he won't be pushing on us in terms of like expansion, because the fungal colony faction is a single city faction, which is a sort of thing that exists in a lot of these games. All right, let's just head over here. We'll have a quick chat with these boss. Notice we also have the ability to bribe them. We can pacify them through just payment. But I like to do quests because quests give us rewards. Sure, you have cities and armies and power and wealth and lots of fancy equipment. But this village is full of cynics. They will only believe that you are a worthy leader if you show that other minor factions have been content to join your ranks. If you're able to show your army integrates other peoples into its ranks, they will be reassured that you have the competence to lead beings of their village as well. So to pacify them, we have to show up with an army that has a minimum of 3 minor faction units. And they'll pay out pretty significantly if we do that. It's not something we're super likely to do anytime soon, unfortunately. So we just hit turn 20. Here's where we introduce one of the primary uses of influence. The Empire Plan. Every 20 turns, we're going to be asked to set up an Empire Plan. We have the ability, you can see, gated by research. Once we've unlocked Era 2, we'll be able to get a second tier bonus in each of these things. The ability to spend influence to set up bonuses on our empire for the next 20 turns until the next Empire Plan. And the cost to do so is based on the number of cities that you have. So founding early makes it a lot harder to buy a decent Empire Plan early on. And if you're, expanding a lot, you need to be paying attention to your influence because a powerful Empire Plan is a big deal. So right now, we have 40 influence points, which with only one city is enough to grab 2 tier 1 bonuses. You can see each one of them is going to cost us 20. We could also just take 1 tier 1 bonus and get that assimilation on nice and early if we wanted. Or actually, we have also already pacified the tribe in here, so we could plan on assimilating the Gelderus immediately after we settle here, which would have the benefit of immediately adding a point of population. Or well, we get the point of population for this city because they're pacified. Never mind, we don't need the assimilation for that. But the Gelderus would also give us a powerful melee unit, and the Gelderus assimilation bonus is just plus damage for all of your units.
That's pretty good.
So it is a pretty handy one. I'm not really sure if we want to buy 1 or 2. I am telling you for sure we want to get this first tier science and industry bonus of plus 20% science in all your cities. The other things we have access to right now are plus 2 vision range on all your units, plus 3 dust for every citizen, every point of population that is devoted to working on dust in your cities. So honestly, it might be worth nothing because a lot of the time we want to be devoted to food or industry. And a 20% reduction in the cost of units, including settlers. Settlers are a unit. My inclination is to go this way.
Okay.
Maybe this is a little greedy, but that spends basically all of our influence, but I do think it's worth it. Okay, sorry about that. Hopefully the last such interruption for the episode. So right now we're looking at 3 turns to get this settler out. It might go down to 2 turns with the bonus that we just picked, which will not actually apply until the beginning of the next turn. But I think that's okay. So settling your second city right after the Empire Plan is definitely a very common move.
Okay.
In this game, it's not a thing you always need to wait for, but it is a thing you need to be conscious that you're not doing if you're not doing it. So to be clear, because I don't think I was clear about this, the overgrown ruins here. I believe we will not be able to interact with those ruins in a normal way since the fungal bloom has started to overgrow them. If we did really want to interact with those ruins, because those are the target ruins for our Legends of Old quest, if you'll remember, we would first have to clear the overgrowth, which, first of all, the Mycera player will perceive as an aggressive action, and secondly, will just take a lot of time. It's not a thing I was interested in doing.
Gotcha.
Okay, yes, we're already almost through this, and then we'll have a lot to do afterward. Okay, so we still have the technology for being able to harvest strategic resources left to figure out. 3 techs until the next era. Okay, yeah, we have that. We have the technology for harvesting luxury resources, which I think we really do want to pick up because we have sources of wine in our territory. And then I think the third thing we're going to grab for sure is the access to the mercenary market, where we can purchase some things that we are going to end up caring about a whole heck of a lot. And I'm just trying to figure out what I think is the order of those things. So we have a wine deposit here, and we're going to have a wine deposit down there when we take Amabel. Between the two regions, there is only one strategic resource deposit, and it's glass steel, which is not as... Each strategic resource has a sort of a character that it imparts to the equipment. They all give good math, but glass steel tends to give lower bonuses to the combat stats and significant bonuses to initiative, whereas titanium, the other one that's available in this era, is much more about just like raw offense, defense, just like big dumb hitting power. Oh, hey, look, another player. That's interesting. I'm not so excited to make equipment out of glass steel, generally, so I'm thinking maybe we can let that fall by the wayside for the moment. Let's queue these up in this order. These are the three we're taking, but this is how we'll do them. Okay. And our great big army is going to run around talking to minor factions and trying to secure deals and whatnot. And if we get attacked, we're not so far away that we can't report back to the city very quickly. I think it would be very dangerous to move very far away at this point.
Okay.
Okay. So we're just going to continue, let a couple of turns pass here, let some stuff finish. These minor faction villages might start putting out armies at any moment, so part of the value of pacifying them obviously is making them stop doing that. Everybody in this village seems to be giving orders and claiming some fancy title. Finally, one of them comes forward and states that if you can bring them enough dust, they will put aside their differences and follow your banners. While it seems a bit too chaotic to be a reliable tip, you have nothing else to go on, and the village would be a useful ally. I would love it if it wasn't just pumping out garbage on our borders. So return to the village when you're ready to give them 50 dust. We'll get 10 influence, which is a resource that's a little hard to come by. So I'm going to go ahead and give them the 50 dust. You have pleased the heiresses who told you what you actually need to do. With a hero-led army, find and talk to the other heiresses village located in the same region. It's right over there. We've already seen it, thanks to our earlier scouting efforts. So we're just going to go ahead and hit this and get these guys pacified. Unfortunately, we will not be working toward this Be the First to Pacify 8 Villages reward because somebody got there already. And by somebody, I mean Red, who now has plus 15% initiative on all their units for the rest of the game. Nothing to worry about, I'm sure. Let's get our settler out here. And I think there's no chance that we don't just settle on the 3 high-value anomalies, right?
Yeah.
There's another like little anomaly cluster over here, and this anomaly cluster does include weaver worms. And who doesn't love a weaver worm? But I think it's got to be right here. So we'll make that journey nice and quickly. We're going to go ahead and produce this mill foundry, and then honestly, I'm thinking about, with all the extra industry and everything, just keeping all of our people pinned to industry and producing another settler to come and take over this set of, anomalies. Honestly, I think that's the play. Hey, you know what we might want to do, though? That's a bit of a walk. It might be worthwhile to update our settler design with that bonus movement trinket. It's only 1 extra point of movement per turn, but the cost increase isn't that bad, and
that adds up over time.
Every turn earlier that the settler puts the city down obviously is a big deal. Okay, as a venerable and cautious race, rumor has it that the Dorgeshi have stockpiled vast mountains of resources in underground caverns beneath their villages. Perhaps it's time to bring the Dorgeshi into your ranks and test these rumors. Unfortunately, we have not seen any Dorgeshi villages, so we can't really participate in this. But that's a shame, because those are some decent resources. I definitely think we want to just take this right now instead of trying to do some fancy thing where like we have this guy run for the long one and settle the cities at the same time or anything like that. Is there anything desperately that we need to do before we put down the city? I don't think so. The city gets a little bit of bonus approval from one of the anomalies. That life tree gives 10 approval, and just look at all those stats. Look at all those resource incomes.
That's pretty good.
We're probably going to go for a mill foundry early on, and I think I'm just going to... So this city has very, very little industry, naturally, but a ton of food. So I'm debating, like, buying the mill foundry out versus just letting population flow into industry work here naturally to get this working. Because the thing is, we're going to have that mercenary market available in 4 turns, and we do want to have some money when that occurs. Also, moving our faction quest forward. Remember, we needed to spread out our force and find the new perfect region to colonize. We did it and got 40 dust. To sustain our dream, we'll need to produce at least 25 industry in this city. When we do, we will gain visions of glory. Though not superstitious, Wildwalkers have put some faith in signs and omens. As each new building rises in your empire, your people are energized by a hopeful future that is growing before their eyes. So basically, from that point on, every time we build a building anywhere in our empire, we will gain 4 influence.
Okay.
Which is handy. So influence, like, in some ways, influence represents, like, I don't even want to say soft power, but, like, it represents your influence more over your own people than anything else.
Yeah, I understand. That makes sense given the, that use of it for the Empire thing.
Yeah, and like assimilating new races into your thing is an influence cost, because you're like making sure that does not turn into, you know, the kind of thing it could turn into, like putting forth some efforts to soothe the factions already within your empire and stuff. I think it's an interesting sort of first look at the way they're going to try to they being Amplitude are going to try to separate like the player as an entity within the game world and the story from the people of the Empire as an entity.
Yeah.
And they will continue to sort of like press that idea further and further in their future games.
And I feel like that's a necessary thing.
I think it's a good idea, certainly.
Any polity.
So we're going to not assimilate a minor faction just yet, even though we do have a couple that we could assimilate, because I think the next step in our faction quest will be to assimilate someone. So.
Gotcha.
If I remember it correctly. All right, what are we doing over here? I guess we could come down and have a look. Again, I'm trying not to stray too far away from my cities, but I do want to make sure we're clearing this area out. So this Yotos village has produced some garbage. Also, there is a ruin to search. All right, next turn, Tanelm will be finished with that, and we can finally go back to focusing on food a little bit. And our winter prediction, this winter's coming real late. I'm a little surprised by how late, actually. There's something else that's kind of surprising me, and we'll get to it when it occurs. It will not happen until after the winter, it looks like. Usually it happens before. All right, the Yotis are getting back on land. We could just run over here and fight them. I think we probably ought to.
Okay.
We could potentially pacify the village through non-violent means. An army of minor faction units running around on the map, there's nothing for us to do but fight them. So, the Yotus Tetike is a short-range unit with the free counter capacity. This means that the first time in battle the first time each turn that they get melee attacked, they get to do a counterattack without it consuming their turn.
Okay.
Or if they've already had their turn, they still get to do counterattack once. Can be really, really annoying to fight them. They do a lot of damage to you if your force is melee based. And they are a ranged unit, but they only have 2 range. So they're effectively just kind of like a weird, like mid-range skirmisher thing with pretty good stats. They are not super well suited to fighting hordes of wild walkers, in my opinion. Notice though, they do have high initiative. They are going to get to go before we are, so we have to. This is the first time we're going to have to like think about what the possibilities are for how their movement might work out. Okay. Notice they've chosen to start up on this bluff here, though, and they've not given themselves any ability to actually get close enough to me to attack. So that's a little embarrassing for them. I want to make sure we're going to be able to get close enough to attack them. I actually might want to start y'all up on the cliff here. Yeah, let's do it like that. Okay. So this guy's going to move to there. I would put money on it. And this guy's going to like move to here. So you want to step there before attacking. You should be able to hit him from here. You should be able to attack from this space. Notice I'm paying attention to initiative, so I've told this unit to move into a space that's currently occupied. But I expect that this unit will be gone by the time that happens. Yeah. If for some reason that unit's not gone from that space, say they got attacked and it canceled their movement or something, that could introduce some real chaos, because then the unit will decide on its own where to move, and that can be very dangerous.
I've been waiting to see some of this, because you mentioned it in the first episode, but I didn't have a lot of opportunity to see, having less control over the units.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really eager to see that in action.
Yeah, it's not going to happen just yet because we're still doing very small force combat. But once we start, first of all, one thing that's going to happen over the course of the game is that our logistics limits are going to expand. But also, Empire versus Empire wars, where you're seeing forces with reinforcing armies and stuff. Like once you're seeing like 12v12 combats and stuff, it's impossible to just read what's occurring, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is, again, the Too Many Chiefs quest. Sure, I'll give you 50 dust to calm you down. They would like us to bring 5 glass steel to the other Yota's village, located inside the region. We don't know where that one is, but I'm going to go try to get it. Ooh, check this out. A sunken ruin, some kind of structure in the ocean. We do not currently have boat as a technology. We don't boat right now, but we could. And perhaps we shall. All right, let's get this wine extractor up, and I think we can bump this city back to population focus for a little while. Try to continue. We notice we're down to three actual units of our population in the city because we just ejected 2 of them. So we do need to recover a little. And hopefully Red won't decide to do anything crazy while I'm over here. Notice Red has expanded into another region adjacent to us, but also they're kind of expanding toward blue. So I don't know what to think about what they're doing right now.
Now, this might just be this particular setup of the map, but it does feel like we're beginning the game already in much closer
proximity
contention, than was the case with Civ, and I like that a lot too. But
that does tend to be the case in Endless Legend, in my experience. In part that puts some juice into the Cold War systems and stuff, like the fact that you can fight other people early on. New quest, the Thunder Below. Oh no. Something is going on, and it's down where you can't see it. Several towns are reporting vibrations and rumbles, as if boulders are grinding against each other beneath the ground. The other, more likely explanation is that some Urkin lice are getting restless. The problem, however, is that villages are going sleepless, herd animals are spooked, and children are terrified. In other words, something has to be done. Experts and alchemists agree that the lice can be tempted out of their lairs by offerings of tasty and exotic luxuries. Seems like an odd solution, but anything's better than hearing all that complaining. Who knows? Maybe you'll even learn to live with them. So if we were to put down 20 gold, if we were to bring 20 gold out here, we could use it to lure the lice out and then fight them, and we would get rewarded significantly for doing so, but I don't know where we're going to get 20 gold. That does not seem realistic to me. Okay, here's that other village. This region has dye, which is a luxury resource that dramatically increases your influence output. Perhaps an interesting future expansion. I definitely think we're taking Balsero first, but yeah, that might be worth something. Maybe. Don't care for this. Army right on my border. Start producing military units. How quick can we get just like a body out there? Just a little nervous is all.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, we did find 5 titanium in that other ruin there, didn't we? Let me look at something real quick. Okay, never mind. Oh, wait, that's not what I wanted. This is what I wanted. Okay. So, this building, it costs 5 titanium and 5 glass steel to build, right? It's super cool. We wouldn't have been able to afford it until just now. Notice that it says your rank 1 of 6 in that tooltip.
Yeah.
The player is given preference on ties against the AIs, or rather, I think it's the person who's in the first player seat at the table is given preference on ties. That's the tie break, and we are in that seat. So what that's telling us is that everybody is equally at 0% built on that museum. And if nobody's even trying for it,
okay,
it does feel like we could try for it. We're not doing anything else with the titanium. Right, we could just put it down right here. It is a district, so it will grab tiles, and then it will already have 2 districts next to it, so it's halfway to being leveled up. I mean, it would be pretty rad. If we're going to do it, we should probably focus on it. I don't know how much it helps to have... You know what, though? I'm, like, really nervous. Let's keep the ranger in the production slot here. Our empire is going to talk to this guy and then be on its way back, and we're pretty fast. But I'm a little nervous here, for sure. Yeah, you should continue your planned path. Don't stop for nothing. And we have a pretty open path back here too. There's not a lot of like rough terrain or anything on the way. Don't you attack me. Don't you do it, you monster. Okay, winter and a declaration of war. 0% surprised. All right, a couple of things are going on here. First of all, we're finishing this quest. Huzzah, pacification. Secondly, we're headed back home. On the way back home, we've discovered some pearls. You see that?
Yeah.
So, our pearl counter is down here at the top of the turn counter. Pearls are a pure outgrowth of Auriga, of the world itself. They distill the living essence of the planet. Pearls are a thing that appear all around the world when winter begins, and they are used to purchase they're used to purchase things, some special things that you can't get in any other way. I'm not going to stress too much about them right now. I am going to stress a lot about this war.
Yeah.
It's interesting. He declared war on us, but he hasn't moved. Ooh, green settled all the way into red. That's really interesting. I wonder why red is declaring war on us with so much border activity. I mean, I know why. He thinks we are small and weak. And he's not wrong. But this is a very frustrating time for him to have realized that thing.
It's interesting that the war is declared there in the winter, because
well, you don't even know why that's interesting. So here's what winter is. You don't know what you do, hold on a second. Okay, you don't have information. The dark season has begun. So you're gonna ignore all this stuff talking about Urkins. That's information you don't have yet. Minus 25% movement on all armies. All terrain that produces food produces one less food. All terrain that produces dust produces one less dust. And minus 1 vision range on basically everything. This is called the dark season for a reason.
Yeah.
So it is interesting that he declared war as winter began, but you didn't have the mechanical context for it just yet there.
Sure, but I also have like the context of knowing that wars are hard to fight in winter.
Well, I mean, but you don't know if that's like, you know, reflected in this game mechanic.
Sure. But given the level of technology that I'm seeing with, you know, it's like fantasy science fiction, but like within what we've been presented, where we have bows and arrows and melee combat and whatnot. There's no motorized units yet. You know, it comports very much with, you know, most of human history, which up until, you know, the invention of like tanks and whatnot, and even to a degree, even after the invention of tanks, where you had a campaign season, which was like spring and summer, maybe a little bit of the fall, and people generally did not start wars in winter unless they were doing a surprise attack.
Mm-hmm.
So like the mechanical stuff you showed me that listed off there comports with like why it's a bad idea generally to conduct operations during snowy places, darkness and whatnot.
Okay. You always decide you have a thing to say when I'm about to talk about a bunch of stuff. So, with this guy right here, I am, first of all, we're canceling the museum. We're definitely in like war construction mode.
Mm-hmm.
I am considering blowing our bank on basically rushing out a unit, so we'll have 2 units finish at the end of the turn. I am also considering reassigning our hero to become governor of the city, so that the hero is here in case the city gets attacked. The upside of that obviously is defense for the city, bonus stats for the garrison. The downside is that this army will be left to move back to the front at their much lower base movement rate without the 2 points of agile mover. And I don't love that idea. I'm a little nervous about that. If we were to bounce him back, he would also give our city some bonus industry output. Get to fill up that garrison a little quicker. Also, rushing out the unit will mean that we're broke. We'll have to switch like Menavin over to just producing dust for a little while, which isn't the end of the world, but it does hinder our growth. It does prevent us from getting some things that I would like to get done. I just really wish that they hadn't declared war on us. It's like a very inconvenient moment for me. Without knowing that was like the moment when our hero was as far away as he was ever going to get from the city, they sure did pick a moment.
Yeah.
I'm so unsure about this army. Like, why are they waiting? He was here at the beginning of the turn, right?
I think so, yeah.
I think so too. I'm worried that I'm going to hit end turn and then he's going to commit all of his movements afterward. You can see he is still marked as playing. He is not ready, which means he hasn't committed his turn. I'm going to split the difference. I am going to take the hero. We are not going to purchase the unit. And the reason I'm splitting the line that way is if they siege the city, it will, you know, dramatically reduce outputs and stuff. I just don't want to make that decision and then have them run through and siege us. But now we have some ability to fight should we need to fight. Okay, they are coming in. Oh, he's got improved logistics capabilities and stuff already. Yeah, he's... Okay, we're going for it. I kind of figured this is what was going to happen. This is why I pulled the hero back. I maybe should have had the... I maybe should have purchased the archer. Alright, so we're doing the thing. This looks pretty bad for us. I'm not gonna lie.
Oof. Yeah.
He has brought... This is what I was saying, like, if you get attacked in the early game, and this is true in Civ, right? Like, we saw the AI is hilariously incompetent in Civ, but with all the stuff they have at the beginning of a game where you're playing on high difficulty, if they attack you before turn, like, whatever, you're just fucked. Like, there's no way out of it. If you get attacked by them while you're still, you know, going through the early parts of your thing, you're in a lot of trouble. So let's talk about what's happening here. First of all, our city has 150 points of fortification. When they put a city under siege here by moving an army next to it and pressing the siege button, it erects like this little border around, and it starts to do damage to the city's fortification at a rate based on the combined siege damage value of all of the units in that army.
Okay.
Once the fortification value is completely zeroed out, their siege damage will start doing damage to the health of the units inside the city, if I remember correctly. But in addition to serving as just sort of like a timer on that, fortification value is extra HP for the units that are in defense in the city, should the city get attacked. So this is like, you know, a way that the game discourages you declaring war on your opponent and then attacking them the next turn. It is often mechanically much better to siege them for a little while, burn down those defenses, and then go to it. We're going to go ahead and fight this and probably lose and be out of the game because I didn't bother to I didn't defend us well enough. And the thing is, like, we did build military and everything. It's just not enough. So you can see we have 150 fortification HP sitting on top of the normal HP for all of our units. That's a big deal. Also, units that are sitting inside the city tiles will get a significant morale bonus. So that's important too. I'm going to have the Dakari Ranger pretty far back. But unfortunately, they're attacking us with a force that includes a fair number of our Puas. These are flying, fast-moving melee units. They are, first of all, I mean, they're flying units. They're going to take extra damage from the longbow, but it's very difficult to control their movement because they fly and they have high initiative. So if they want to, and geez, 4 speed. If they want to get onto our archers, they're going to, basically is what I'm saying. There's not very much we can do about it. I can have you back here, I guess. We can disincentivize that attack by changing the way we stack our units. The Arpua has a circular attack. When it does its attack, it attacks every enemy adjacent to it for a lesser damage value. So if we like stack units up in such a way that they get to hit several units and the archers all at once, obviously we'll be incentivizing them to do so. I'm actually going to put the archers like way back here.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. This is, I think, the best we're going to be able to do. This is really ugly, though. 1, 2, 3, 4. So yeah, they can still absolutely just rush the archer if they want. Nothing we can do about it. They also have a cavalry unit as a commander, Makani Che here, who has 6 movement speed. Most cavalry units will have some version of this ability, charge, which gives them a significant attack bonus if they move, and then also a scaling attack bonus based on how many movement points they spent.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is going to be ugly. We want to focus up on probably this one. I think is likely to be the one that comes the closest. And I'm just going to kind of naively aim all of our troops at that one. But the fact is, it's very hard to know what's going to happen because they get to move 4 high movement speed units before our units make any decisions at all. I cannot tell you what the battlefield's going to look like by the time our turns start.
That's so exciting.
Yep, that's pretty aggressive. So he just spent our hero's attack by getting in and attacking him first. There's that circular attack. You can see he's dealing damage to multiple people at once. Oof. And then their stone sentinels are a lot slower to get in the fight. And we're going to try our level best to gang up on this guy. Can you... Yeah, you can take the shot from up here. I don't know that I will be allowed to back up, but if I am allowed to, I would like to. And I'm not going to bother entering a lot of complicated orders for the militia because I don't think they'll get to perform their orders anyway. Yeah, so at the very least, this is exciting as a way to lose the game. I think this is really useful for displaying some stuff about the combat system.
Yeah.
Yeah, one thing I definitely remember about Endless Legend is that this is a thing you have to be ready for, a thing you have to be wary of. If an AI player who is more than one region away from you settles toward you with their first city, that is an indication of a desire to kill. And the thing is, we did do military and stuff. Like, we did build military units to counter and everything. But somehow he knew when we were far away, or just got really lucky and declared at the moment when our army was as far away from the city as it was ever going to get. And what I should have done probably is detach the hero from the army. Yeah. But I wanted to be armed up in case minor faction villages had spawned neutrals or whatever. We're just gonna keep letting they're calling the shots here. They have all the initiative, so I'm not really even giving orders anymore. It's like, y'all do your best, try to survive. Unfortunately, you can see our formation has completely collapsed. They are in charge. They have all the morale bonuses now. They're up in our ranged units, and even their slower units are getting into things. We are in turn 5 of 6 of this battle, and I think we're going to lose everything this turn, or maybe some stuff will survive, but we certainly won't survive the battle as a whole. Ooh. Yep, and then there goes the hero, and that is the loss of our capital, and I'm going to go ahead and tap out at that point. Technically, we are not dead. We have a very, very small city and a settler who's about to found another city, but we're dead. We do technically have an army who could, like, in theory, fight back, but it's going to be 4 turns before they get here, another 2 turns before they could actually attack the city, and in those 6 turns, I expect, this will be... We didn't even deal any damage to that army. He doesn't even need to reinforce.
Oh, gosh.
Wow. Yeah, that's just I got my face stepped on because I wasn't being wary enough. This early in the series is probably a good time for the overconfidence to just get slapped out of me like that.
Yeah, no, this was rad.
I do think that was a really good example of a lot of things that are good about the combat system of the game, like the way you can use high initiative units to control the movement and targeting of your enemies. In particular, the way you can use high movement and flying units to harass enemy archers into being unable to focus, and like It was a good
Yeah,
battle. It was a good battle. He had a smart composition for fighting us.
I love this because like most of my work with like military history games falls into two camps. One is operational and one is like tactical battle systems. So like this shit is great. This is the kind of meat that I want from a game like this.
Okay.
That yeah, wow. And I like way you explained that siege system where you're not incentivized to just go and attack. You need to slowly kind of break it down.
Unless you have a force that is superior enough, and like there's a time pressure on him, right? He starts the siege, and then it's like, how long does it take for my reinforcements to show up? How many turns can you afford to burn defenses? In this case, he didn't need any, but you can imagine a scenario. You can imagine a scenario in which it would matter.
And all of this is really reflective of like real principles from human history. I know this is not Earth, it's not human stuff, it's science fiction, but like it is built on those things and thinks about them seriously in a way that's really invigorating. So like,
if I'm honest,
wow,
I care about that stuff so much less than the fact that this is good as a game. Like, it leads to interesting decision making and complicated incentives and whatnot. So when a hero gets killed in combat, they become injured. You don't permanently lose heroes, but you can see our hero is injured and out of the game for 20 turns. We can use dust to restore him, and the amount of dust that costs will scale down over time as he gets closer to natural recovery. Let's talk about really quick, since we did open it up, the marketplace, and then we'll call this game and we'll start up another one, and maybe I'll turn the difficulty down. So when I was doing a lot of playing this game, like I said, I was using a mod that improves the enemy AI. I was also playing down a difficulty for sure, because Endless Legend Community Patch difficulty 8 enemies are just too hard for me to beat.
Okay.
So it might be worth it for us to take it down to 7 even without the community patch. I thought there was a chance I was going to be able to do this. It didn't really work out here. So first of all, there are 2 different marketplace tags that are important for our purposes, important for you to know about here. There is the one that we bought into, which gives you access to the mercenaries and heroes part of the marketplace. And then there's another marketplace technology somewhere, I don't even remember where, but it gives you access to the part where you buy and sell resources.
Okay.
I literally don't remember where it is. It's not super important for the purposes of this, but that's why these parts are not available to us yet. So you can see you can hire in groups of minor faction units and stuff. But what is more important, and the reason we picked it up, is the hero marketplace. Some of the factions' main faction quests will award you with additional heroes to run your empire with. But the way you're going to pick up most of your heroes beyond the first one is by recruiting people from the marketplace. And what you may not be able to immediately recognize about these heroes from just their art alone is that these are not wild walkers.
Okay.
So you will see hero representatives from all of the different factions in the marketplace. And there are even a couple of heroes who are not from any playable faction. And so when you're hiring in a hero, you're thinking about what kind of melee unit, or like what kind of combat unit are they? What's their class tree going to be? But this is also a way to get access to the faction trees of other factions in order to specialize your cities more. Like if you have a city that is built on a river, you can recruit a Broken Lord, and he'll be able to pull dust out of the river for you in this way. Okay. Or if you're not a wild walker and you want, you're putting a city down near a forest and you would like all of that juicy industry, you can hire a wild walker in and do that. You can hire a necrophage, Probably not for city stuff, probably to lead your army. But yeah, they'll do that. They'll do a great job of that. So first of all, I really like it when games let you play with pieces of the different factions when it's not, there's a lot of differentiation, but there's also a lot of ways to sort of like pierce the veil between those things. And yeah, you'll see more of that as we go on here. But yeah, that's going to be the end of this game because I donked it and lost. Quit game. It's going to yell at us now. Cowardice. That's absolutely fair. If you just want a quick idea of what's going on here. In terms of raw military strength points, we never rose above about 270. The red player had 3,700.
Okay, yeah, that would make a difference.
It's a lot of extra stuff they get to start with, and that snowballs very quickly, you know. I probably will, for the sake of my cowardice, I probably will take it down in difficulty level when we come back and do another one. But we might do a different faction, maybe, now that I've sort of explained the basics. Like, the Wild Walker faction quest is really easy to do, but they're certainly not the only ones who have a completable faction quest. And there's so much cool stuff going on here. So I think we have a minute. How about we talk this out right now, and then next episode we'll just start with the faction. So let's talk about what you would like to see. What are you interested in seeing the sort of like systemic impact of? There is the Mycera. This is that fungus faction.
Okay.
Ancient dwellers of a subterranean realm, mycelial webs, etc. The Mycera are one of Ariga's oldest species. So you only have one city that is actually your city. You can conquer or acquire other cities in various ways, but even if you do so, they don't become functional cities within your empire. You just fungus them over and they become basically like an outgrowth.
Okay.
So it's a one city faction. They have some interesting melee units. Their core melee unit is sort of like a ranged cavalry kind of thing. Yeah, they're cool. They have some very weird stuff going on. The Kapaku, which is who we lost to, they have those stone sentinels. And their deal is the volcanoes. They are born of ash. We didn't get enough time to see it ourselves, but ordinarily volcanic tiles don't have food on them for most factions. The Kapaku do get food from volcanic tiles, and they don't get food from any other tiles. So the positions of the volcanic regions on the map really influence their play, but they develop the technology to vulcanize terrain over the course of their faction quest. So it's not as restricting as it sounds like. You start to slowly turn other places into volcano world as the game goes on. And they have some interesting like science and industry focused stuff. The Morgar are they are from deep in the seas. They're a very naval focused faction. We didn't get to see any of the water stuff at all. That. All of their two of their three military units are special kinds of naval units, which means they effectively have no military, but they have an enhanced ability to get cooperation from the minor factions. So your land army ends up being made up of minor faction units.
That's
pretty rad, and they're really like gross and cool. They have such good art. Hold on.
I was going to ask you, what's the most Halloween faction?
Hold on. This is 3 of 12. I understand it's exciting, but the Alagi here, these are the sort of psychic bat people. You can't really see, but these things behind him, they're not attached to his body. They just float there. He's just some psionic whatever. They have a very close bond with Ariga. And that one of the ways that manifests is that their units are different in the summer than they are in the winter. They literally shape change as the seasons change.
Okay.
They have some very powerful military units. The Alagi monk is maybe my favorite unit in the whole game. And they also their settler is a cavalry unit. Their basic unit is their basic military unit is a cavalry unit, and they're all about like fast moving exploration and stuff. I like them a lot, as I have mentioned. We're going to talk about the Forgotten out of order. So you saw the Wild Walkers. The Broken Lords are essentially enchanted suits of armor. There's not like a body in there. And they draw energy directly from the dust to survive. And their storyline is all about the fact that like some of the Broken Lords discover a way to draw energy from living creatures instead, and to basically become vampires. And the sort of the rift that creates in their civilization. They're very heavy armor, slow moving, powerful melee units. And because they have no biological bodies, they don't see or use the food resource at all. They make new points of population out of dust, and they don't heal naturally either. You have to pump dust into an army to heal it. So they have a very different sort of economy than the other factions do. The Vaulters are the remnants of the people who came here in the Great Spaceship Crash. So these are sort of a higher tech. They're like the descendants of a very high tech civilization that have been, they've been here for a couple of generations, and they've kind of lost access to a lot of their technology, but they still have some of it. And so there's a weird sort of like sci-fi techno tribal thing kind of going on.
Okay.
And they're all about like playing with the playing with the strategic resources and stuff like that. The Mizari are just the Vaulters. They're just a skin. So the Forgotten are the people who were exiled from Vaulter society for heresy. And they're sort of like a twisted reflection of the Vaulters, where the Vaulters are obsessed with science. They are like the most science-forward faction. The Forgotten literally cannot see, gather, or use the science resource. They cannot research technologies, but they can steal technologies from other players. And they could use dust to straight up like buy knowledge. And all of their units are like a weird like inversion of the Vaulter units and stuff. You can really see the hate running between the two. I think in a way that's like, it's a fascinating mechanical manifestation of the story ideas. But they're very like espionage focused, and you can see they're sort of like, they have the ability to kind of like be gently invisible. And they have cool moths. Look at how sick this moth is.
Yeah.
The necrophages, you'll never guess from their name what their deal is.
First picture some necros and then phage them.
Yeah. Their deal is they do not know how to farm, but they do know how to eat the dead. So they're really bad at gathering food from the terrain, but whenever units die in combat with a necrophage, including the necrophages units, they all go into a big stockpile of corpses, and then you make food out of them.
Okay.
So they're very mechanically driven to constantly be fighting, because if they're not fighting, they don't eat. And their whole sort of civilization is based around that. They cannot be at peace with anyone ever. They don't do that. And it's just all the time blood, all the time food. Sort of a fascinating way to approach the game.
Okay.
The Ardent Mages are just like hard wizards. They figured out how to use the dust to cast spells, and they do wizard shit. They have this mechanic where you are creating these pillars on the world map out of dust that pay out resources or affect armies nearby. And so you're like trying really hard to gather dust all the time so that you can be casting spells in combat and on the world map that, change the properties of the tiles. They also have a real like BDSM pain is power kind of thing going on.
Yeah, that's a strong look. that's a very compelling look. Oh my.
The roving clans are like commerce as an idea. If you animated the idea of commerce and gave it a mustache, that's this dude. The roving clans literally can't declare war on other players. They are so dedicated to resolving everything monetarily. They own the marketplace, and so they get when you do marketplace stuff, you pay like a fraction of the cost of the transaction as a fee. If there's a roving clans player in the game, they're getting all those fees, and so you have like you have an interest in not just making sure that you're doing trade with other players, but that other players are doing trade with each other. You don't really want there to be a lot of wars going on, ideally, which is kind of interesting. And they're a very cavalry-focused, fast-moving faction. The Draken are dragons, dragon folk. They're very like influence-focused, and they have the ability to force diplomatic changes on other players. Like you can just say, "Hey, we're not at war anymore. You have decided that we're not at war anymore," or you can make somebody be allied with you. And they have a sort of like a very defensively oriented sort of army, and also dragons. Also, it's dragons all the time. And finally, the cultists. This is that thing. The cultists are a different one city faction. They have one great big city that is centered on the throne of the queen. The throne of the queen is a great big box that talks to them and tells them what to do. And they again are a sort of a minor faction focused. Like their whole thing is about like converting minor factions to worshippers, so that they worship the queen and the cult. The cultists of the eternal end, they're called. But one of the things that's cool about them is that their districts can level up twice. So they end up with this one big city that's all built in upon itself, where the districts are like producing insane amounts of resources. And that's sort of like the payoff for not being able to expand. I do find them a little challenging, but if you can get on a real runaway if you can get started.
They're also really creepy to look at.
They're extremely creepy.
Please highlight something else.
Okay. Here, we'll go friendly here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look at that. Look at those mandibles move. So do you have any strong feelings about what you would like to see us do in our next attempt here?
You know what? I'm kind of torn between the necrophages, the Morgar, and the Ardent Mages, and I'm not sure which. The Ardent Mages is more based on the look than
the vibe is very strong. All right.
So from those three, you pick one.
Okay. I will, but I'm not going to reveal what I have picked.
Oh, okay.
That's, I think, where we're going to end it. That's going to be it for us for today. Thank you all so much for watching. When you come back next time, a new game, one that hopefully goes a little bit more in our favor, maybe down a difficulty. I'll just have to take the hit to my ego, I suppose. So come back for that. And winning, all the winning we're going to do. And we'll see you then.